Super Mario Galaxy is a very special game. I've tried so many times to write a script for a video about this game that I was happy with, but I've never been satisfied with what I had to say because, really, it's hard for me to put how I feel about this game into words. A big part of my connection to this game is, as you may have predicted, nostalgia. The game came out when I was 7 years old, and though it was far from my first game, I'd consider it the most important game I had played up to that point in my life. However, though I may be extremely nostalgic for this game, that's far from the only reason I hold it in such high regard. This game is so unique and incredible in so many ways, and it opened my eyes to what video games could be back when I first played it. It remains my favorite game of all time to this day. So let's talk about why that is. One of Mario Galaxy's greatest strengths lies in the atmosphere it creates. Right from the get-go, it establishes a tone that's far darker and more dramatic than the Mario games that preceded it. The opening sequence, despite presenting a similar plot to what we've seen before, is presented in a way that actually asks you to take it seriously. It also perfectly establishes a theme that remains throughout the entirety of the game: unfamiliarity. The UFO that comes to take away Peach's castle is unlike anything we've ever seen before, and it provokes a sense of dread as we watch and wonder about what it could mean. Following his failed rescue attempt, Mario awakens on a lone planet in the middle of space, where we're introduced to the Lumas and Rosalina, and things calm down for a bit, before we blast off again into a dire rescue mission to save the Grand Star, and by extension, all of the Lumas. This entire opening sequence perfectly establishes so many things about the game that will stick around until the end, all tying into a theme of unfamiliarity. The characters, the anti-gravity gameplay, the planets we explore, it's all unlike anything we've ever experienced in the past games. The way that it switches back and forth between a calm atmosphere and an intense one also helps establish both the wonder and the danger that's to be expected from the many worlds in space we have yet to see, and the orchestral score backs this up perfectly. Speaking of the score, it's one of the absolute best things about this game. It ranges from silly fun to intense epic symphonies, to calming lullabies. All of these tunes intertwine perfectly with the vastly varied worlds of the game. The game is at its best when it goes all out, with an intense level coupled with a dramatic piece of music to back up the atmosphere. But the detours into colorful, lighthearted fun are also a welcome change of pace from time to time. It is a Mario game, after all. And, being a Mario game, it has some of the best designed 3D platforming levels ever created. It takes the excitement and curiosity of seeing a distant area in Mario Sunshine and amplifies it, with each new galaxy having distant planets that you'll eventually get to explore, sparking excitement about the unexplored corners of the galaxy right from the moment you take your first steps on a new planet. All of the planets are fun to traverse and present challenges that are unique not only to the other galaxies in the game, but also from all the other planets in its galaxy. Planets can range from being tiny planetoids to vast mountains and lava caverns, and across these different settings, the gravity mechanic is explored in a variety of interesting ways that keep things fresh throughout the entire experience. The game also has plenty of boss fights across these worlds, and though some are simpler than others, some genuinely spark dread when seeing them for the first time, being larger and more sinister than anything we've faced in past games, again tying into the theme of unfamiliarity as we explore foreign worlds and take on these formidable monsters. But even aside from all that, my favorite thing about this game might just be how it handles the story. Like I mentioned before, this game takes a bit of a darker and more dramatic turn, despite partially treading some old ground with the Peach kidnapping storyline. The game introduces new characters in Rosalina and the Lumas, and the way they're presented along with their backstory is genuinely fascinating. Rosalina begins as a mysterious character, and is a perfect supplement to the game's sense of wonder and unfamiliarity, and as you continue to play the game, you unlock chapters of her backstory that are both heartwarming and tragic, a drastic deviation from any storyline the mainline Mario games has told before, and a welcome addition if you ask me. The game also has undoubtedly the most epic climax of any game in the Mario series, with Bowser's galaxy collapsing into a massive black hole, and the Lumas sacrificing themselves to save the universe, Something made even more sad when you remember that Rosalina dedicated her entire life since childhood to protecting them, even when she didn't want to. And at the end of it all, the universe is born anew, creating all new life, as Rosalina puts it, setting the stage for this game's sequel. Yes, of course, you can't really talk about how great Mario Galaxy is without mentioning its direct sequel, Super Mario Galaxy 2. Many people hold this game in even higher regard than the original, and while I do agree that it's a great game, I don't think it has the same magic as the original. The game has some of the best designed levels in the Mario series, and the power-ups it introduces are a blast. But what this game adds in creativity and fun, I feel it takes away in atmosphere and wonder. The game's levels are generally much brighter and cheerier than most of Galaxy 1's, and though they still use the gravity mechanic a fair amount, most of the levels are laid out more like the traditional obstacle course type levels you'd find in games like 3D Land and World. These levels are tons of fun to play through, but aside from a few great exceptions, most of them lack the atmosphere and freeform level design the worlds of the first game had. The soundtrack is great once again, but again, aside from a few cases, it's more upbeat and bouncy, largely lacking the dramatic punch the orchestra brought to many of Galaxy 1's levels. And, perhaps worst of all, the game removes all of the tension from its story, taking the most generic part of Galaxy 1's narrative and retreading it with only minor changes. Gone is the roller coaster of tension, wonder, and urgency from the original game's opening sequence, and gone are the profound consequences of Bowser's actions in the ending. It's just Bowser doing the same thing as the first game, but this time he's big. Rosalina is also mostly absent, being replaced by Lubba, a big purple Luma who constantly cracks jokes. Listen, I love Lubba, but the shift from Rosalina to him, I think, perfectly embodies the entire shift from Galaxy 1 to Galaxy 2, and why Galaxy 2 doesn't reach the same heights as the first for me. Rosalina is mysterious and intriguing. She's trying to save her family she's spent her whole life protecting from dying out. Lubba's just there to have fun and help save the day because the day needs saving. Likewise, Galaxy 2 is a ton of fun to play, but so many of the things that made Galaxy 1 so special to me, such as the dramatic tone, thick atmosphere, and grand scale, were either downplayed or removed entirely in favor of simple fun. Don't get me wrong, I think Galaxy 2 is absolutely incredible for what it is. Heck, a lot of the things I've brought up to compare the two games probably don't even matter to a lot of people. I love the game, and I'm willing to admit that it does indeed do some things even better than the first. But it just doesn't quite have the same spark that the original does to me. Of course, Mario Galaxy 1 isn't a perfect game. It's largely been hailed as a masterpiece since its release, but as the years have gone on and new games have been released, Galaxy seems to be becoming one of the more divisive games in the series, similar to how Ocarina of Time's quality or how well it followed other Zelda games has become more debated as time has gone on. People tend to complain about the game's linearity or the few frustrating missions scattered throughout, and I could stand here, be the fanboy that I am, and defend the game, stating that the worlds would be more confusing without a linear structure, or that the worst missions are usually optional, but, even though I kinda just did what I said I wasn't gonna do, I'm fully willing to acknowledge that Mario Galaxy isn't flawless. The thing is, though, no game is. No game is ever going to have absolutely no issues, or please absolutely every single person who plays it. Galaxy may not be a perfect game, but I don't see why the few problems it does have should make it a lesser game in the eyes of someone like me, who adores absolutely everything else about it. A game doesn't have to be without flaw to be considered a masterpiece in the eyes of its fans, and that's exactly what Galaxy is to me. I've already talked at length about the broader reasons why the game is so great to me, but I could go on all day about all the little things I love about it, like all of the different level themes and the Luma's individual personalities and the color scheme and the characters you meet and much, much more. I'm at the point where the things I love about it outweigh the things I don't so far that the few problems don't bother me in the slightest. That's a purely subjective take, of course, and you may have way more problems with Galaxy than I do, and that's okay. But I know I'm not the only one who's been impacted by this game in a similar way. I know this video's kind of been all over the place, but really at the end of the day, what I've been trying to express here, and what I've tried to express in all of my other attempts to make this video, is that Mario Galaxy is, to me, unlike anything I've ever experienced. It impacted me and many others in ways no other game has, and sent shockwaves throughout the gaming industry with the grand leaps it took in the Mario formula. It's a grand adventure unlike anything else in the Mario series, including its sequel, and though it's not perfect, it deserves every bit of praise it gets. So Super Mario Galaxy team, thank you for creating this incredible game. Thank you for encouraging creativity, innovation, and polish in the gaming industry, and setting an example for other developers to follow. Thank you for inspiring me to work toward creating my own games that will hopefully have a similar effect on someone else someday. And most of all, thank you for giving me and countless others a gaming experience we won't ever forget.